But as the world changes around us, as the times change, being a Hindu is also manifest in huge changes. Are we the same Hindu that existed more than 1,000 years ago? Or the Hindu, what Hindus, being Hindu meant in the last 1,000 years? And how is it going to be in the years to come? As the way we live, the size of our cities, our concerns and challenges, our lifestyle, our ability to communicate and travel, our ways of making a living, our habitat. As all that changes and is likely to change going forward, how much of our being Hindu thus far is going to be carried into future? What kind of a Hindu would we like to be in the times to come, to be able to contribute to what we call universal peace and pluralism, which is the anchor of today's conversation? So I believe we will need to draw the essence of what is being a Hindu. Essence from our knowledge traditions, essence from what has been handed down to us from our forefathers, essence in terms of how we see ourselves as a unique, distinctive feature among the rest of communities and identities that exist in this world. And I believe there are three very distinctive and defining features of being a Hindu. While I believe the rest of the world seeks happiness in possessing and consuming, in acquiring and using, in sense gratification, as it were, in pleasures that we seek in this body. Our forefathers, our seers, our sages, our wise have told us that our distinctive feature is frugality. We must consume and acquire only as much as is needed, not so much as we desire or want. It's a very clear distinction between need and want. There is a very interesting shloka in Ishavasyopanishad, the very first shloka, which says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitaha ma gradha kasya vidhanam. That divine permeates every particle that we see around us and that we can't even see beyond what we see. Idam sarvam Yat kinchit jagatyam jagat, whatever exists in this creation, divine permeates it. Now, that being established or a given, the action that we are supposed to follow is tena tyaktena bhunjitah, therefore consume it with a sense of detachment, alienation, not with a sense of greed and acquisition. Consume only as much as you really need and cannot do without, is the essence of that. And ma gridha kasya vidhanam, and don't covet others' possessions, because everything that you see around it is permeated by the divine. This is Upanishadic wisdom in Ishavasya Upanishad, the very first shloka. And I think in this sense of detachment with this world and its material pleasures, we distinguish ourselves from rest of the world. The second distinct feature is harmony and coexistence. Whereas the world is steeped in conflict and competitiveness. There is again in Rigveda a beautiful shloka which says, Sangachadvam samvadadvam samvo manansi janatam deva bhagam yata purve sanjanana upasate. Sangachadvam, let's move together. Let's go together. Samvadadvam, let's speak in unison. Samvo manasi janata, and let our thoughts and our thinking be also in tune, in sync with each other. Deva bhagam yatha purve sanjananam upasate, like our gods shared the fruits of their own purushartha, efforts, like an obeisance to the Almighty. Let's all share. This is about harmony. This is not about cornering as much as you can, snatching from the other. This is again the bare sense of how we see the world and those who we live with in this world. That's being Hindu, and that's very, very distinctive. I don't see such a worldview reflected elsewhere. And third, let's, in terms of philanthropy, sharing, creating and sharing, producing and sharing, generating and sharing. It is again a very short shloka, Upanishadic wisdom. It says, Shadhasta samahara, sahasrahasta sankinkara. Produce with 100 hands, which means put all your might, all your ingenuity, all your effort and knowledge into producing and creating, as if you're doing it with your 100 hands. Sahasrahasta sankinkara, but when it comes to distributing, do it with 1,000 hands. It is a beautiful thought and idea. How you must strive to build and create, and how you must make even more effort to share it with the rest of the world. To me, these 3 points, these 3 ideas define civilizationally who we are and how we see this world. It is in this that we, at least I find, the building blocks for universal peace and harmony. It is in this that we find a sanctuary for plurality as well, because it comes without caveats. It comes without distinction. It comes with open heart generosity. It cannot but lead to universal peace and preserving plurality, preserving differences, distinctiveness, uniqueness that not only exists across cultures, civilizations, races, but even from one individual to the other, because all of us as individuals are unique. So that, I believe, is the kind of Hindu we can carry along with ourselves into future. Our temple architecture may change. Our ways of worshipping may change. What we seek from the divine may change. How we earn a living and live may change. Where in this world we may live may change. But those are the gross manifestations of being a Hindu. In their subtle, essential form, as ideas, as thoughts, I think these three precisely distilled points of wisdom is what will essentially keep us a Hindu. And how do we use it in terms of universal peace? Has to be posited, has to be contextualized in the world that we are going to progress into and live. And that contextualization is where it is extremely critical that we identify what are the challenges to the world peace. What are those fault lines where the world peace is going to find a jeopardy? We, over the last 300-400 years, have moved on from being civilizations to nation states with sharply defined boundaries, with passports and visas for travel, with a super identity over that trumps every other identity called nationality. And competing nation states with conflicting interests, with a big race to get somewhere. How do we ensure within this competitiveness, within this rivalry, within this conflict of interest, universal peace? That is going to be a challenge. Another fault line is the religious identity. As we see religions barely cloaking supremacist mindsets, competing as hard as they always have to harvest souls and to convert as many as they can, there's going to be a huge amount of conflict. in trying to prevail, in trying to establish some kind of a hegemony, there is a huge challenge to peace going forward. Then there are racial fault lines, a completely different stock, fighting with the other to eliminate or to prevail. And that is going to pose a challenge to peace. Geography. When you covet more and more territory, when you covet more and more resources like land, water, energy, we would see ourselves deeper into these conflicts. And this is where the bare essence that we had identified of traits, attitudes, values is going to help us through, is going to assist us in navigating through these challenges. These challenges in terms of peace and pluralism. What I find is pluralism is the given situation that creates challenges for peace. Pluralism in terms of nations, plurality in terms of religions, plurality in terms of racial stock, plurality in terms of different geographical terrains. We are divided in terms of continents, divided in terms of access to ports, rivers, forests, sharing of resources, critical materials and metals. So when you talk of plurality, this very directly contraindicates to peace because of inherent conflict. And where we come from as Hindus, the very essence of being a Hindu is to harmonize plurality and deliver peace. So what is contraindicating against the peace itself because of its inherent plurality? The essence of how we look at the world ensures, preserves plurality and delivers peace. So therefore, in the current world, the challenges that we face are of survival, the fight to prevail, and in order to preserve this essence of Hinduism, we may have to join the fight. In the interim, we may have to struggle for survival. Because as Hindus, as a civilization, as a culture, we are the gross body. As those values, we are the subtle form of that body. Unless that gross body survives, the idea, the essence, will find no other place to survive. There's another sutra in Sanskrit that says, Shariramev madhyamam khalu dharma sadhanam. It is through the body, it is through the gross body that you are able to pursue the ideas, the knowledge essence. So for us as Hindus to take forward the bare essence that we had identified as frugality, as harmony and philanthropy, we need to survive as Hindus in order to practice them and take it forward along with us. And today we are challenged. Today we have survival at stake as Hindus, as a civilization, as a culture. So much as we may like to be in peace, and to preserve plurality, we are challenged. Our survival is challenged along those 5 fault lines that I just mentioned: the national fault lines, the racial fault lines, the religious fault lines, the geographical fault lines, and the fault lines of competition for resources. And we need to fight. We need to join this battle, this Mahabharata, to uphold dharma, to uphold those 3 bare essentials of being who we are. So the challenge is for the preservation of universality, the preservation of plurality, and preservation of peace. We need to wage this battle, grim battle, going forward in the future, to fight those very forces who look at the world through a completely different prism, who exist to dominate, who exist to eliminate the other, who exist to just prevail to the exclusion of everyone else. And you cannot negotiate with them a coexistence, because you can coexist with those who create a room, who are willing to coexist with you. So it's a conundrum. It's a bit of a challenge, a huge challenge, that you need to eliminate in order to create room for coexistence. You need to fight adharma for dharma to prevail. Dharma which will ensure pluralism. Dharma which will ensure sanctuary for all identities. And dharma which will treat everyone equally according to their needs. So we need to manage this conundrum, manage this contradiction. And yet, for the larger good, for universal survival, we need to preserve the bare essence of being. I don't know if I've been able to communicate or you've been able to make sense of what I wanted to communicate. But this is where I'll end. Thank you so much for your attention. If you have questions, and they're not very difficult, I'll try and answer them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now we'll have some questions for you. So guys, feel free, if you have any questions, to come forward and ask. We have Mohanji coming over here. Come over here.
Audible, Sushil?
Yes, I can hear you. I think I've taken much longer than I was supposed to. So I apologize for that. I didn't realize.
It was like nectar from your self, coming from the source. We thoroughly enjoyed. I can tell from my end. Sushil, I have heard you in the past as well, not only in YouTube but also directly, speaking about Kashmir, so from Chinya Mission. Mitrananji, Swami Mitrananji is close to me.
Yes, of course, I remember. This was Pune.
Yes, correct. Sushilji, so if we could just enumerate 1, 2, 3 few steps that we could take to preserve our Hindu identity and preserve unity in diversity. I rather go with diversity rather than pluralism. That is the word that's dear to me. So so any few steps that we could follow as Hindus. Yeah.
I think to start with, be aware of who we are And that distinctiveness that we bring to this world in who we are is extremely necessary. We need to realize it first. And in the realization itself is the very first significant step in preserving ourselves. Because very often we aren't mindful of what is it being a Hindu. How is it distinctive enough to define us as something unique in this world full of civilizations and cultures? This value system, being aware of it, that top of mind awareness, not just awareness that you pull out from the deep recesses of your mind when the context arises, but to be aware of it top of mind all the time, almost like a moral compass to guide your behavior, to guide your actions, to guide your conduct in this world. We need to be conscious of it, aware of it, in order to practice it. The practice bit will come as the value system, as the bare essence, takes the top of mind awareness position. So, and a lot of it gets refined and distilled as you get deeper into our knowledge traditions and scriptures, as you get deeper into the discourse around it. And it's not something that you pull out once in a while for a lofty conversation, but start living it as a community. You know, through these centuries of deprivation and poverty and horrendous invasions, as a society, we were driven into looking after ourselves and our own. This inwardness and disconnection with people around us, our brothers and sisters, not necessarily from the same mother. That sense of generosity and sense of sharing and empathy got eroded. We need to be aware of that as well. All these values took a huge knock. Probably the sheer pressure on survival was such that we abandoned a lot of these values. We need to rebuild them, be conscious of them. Guru Nanak Dev Ji, hundreds of years ago, rekindled this spirit. And today you see it manifest in terms of langars that run to feed the hungry all over the world, irrespective of who you are, in what condition you are, whether you can come to the langar or not. Langar reaches you. People with great passion bring hot food to serve you just because you are hungry and don't have any other option. This spirit was again born out of our civilization values. I think it should permeate other communities as well. Guru Nanak Ji was a guru to all of us. And this entire parampara of gurus that tell you how to defend not just yourself, but those who seek your help. Guru Tegh Bahadur gave away his life when our annihilation was almost certain at the hands of Mughals, Aurangzeb. Having come through this Holocaust millennium, of 1,000 years, today, hopefully, we've left that behind. We need to remember how our ancestors survived on the sacrifices of others who made for us. We owe a debt of gratitude, and the only way we can pay back is to be ready to help those who need the help today and fight those who wish to carry on this vicious, violent campaign of supremacy to subdue us. So it's critical. Today the manifestation of such supremacist, violent campaigns may have become a little different. But what drives them exists very much. And we need to be mindful of who we are, how we've traveled so far in order to practice as Hindus. I'm sorry I'm launched into another small speech as an answer to this question. I hope that's clear now. Thank you.
Very much, sir. आपका हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. मैं हिंदी में बोलूँगा ताकि थोड़ी मातृभाषा से भी प्यार. आपको हमारी तरफ से बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और आप हमारे साथ जुड़े. भगवान आपकी बहुत रक्षा करे और आप तो तूफान के बीच में हैं, तो धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. We will take one more question, sir. Request है, लोग आपसे बहुत बात करना चाहते हैं.
जी जी, स्वागत है, स्वागत है.
सुशील पंडित जी नमस्कार. मेरा प्रश्न, इज इट ओके टू स्पीक इन हिंदी? आप मेरे ख्याल से अच्छे हिंदी के भी
बहुत खुशी होगी. जी जी जी, बोलिए.
तो मेरा प्रश्न आपसे एक लॉजिकल भी और सिंपल सा प्रश्न है. शस्त्र और शास्त्र हमारे दोनों हाथों में, एक हाथ में शस्त्र था, एक हाथ में शास्त्र, आदिकाल से लेके अब तक. तो कब कहाँ पर हमारे शस्त्र पीछे रह गए, शास्त्र आगे आ गए, और जब शास्त्र आगे आ गए तो उसका हम सब ने उसका देखा भी है कि उसका हमारे उसके संस्कृति पे, हमारी कल्चर पे उसका क्या हाल हुआ. तो अभी जो पीछे इतना कुछ चर्चा में था, जब हमने भी वो मूवी देखी तो उसमें इतना भव्य हमारी संस्कृति थी कश्मीर में, उसका जो हाल हुआ, क्यों हम लोगों ने अभी जो आपने 5 फॉल्ट लाइंस बताई हैं उसमें, तो वो फॉल्ट लाइंस तो आदिकाल से थी, आज भी हैं और भविष्य में भी शायद रहेंगी. तो ऐसा क्या करेंगे या क्या होगा कि वो जो फॉल्ट लाइंस को कोई कवर करे या कोई ऐसी लीडरशिप आए या ऐसा कुछ हो? आप इसके बारे में क्या सोचते हैं? और मेरा जो प्रश्न पहला है कि शस्त्र और शास्त्र, जब हमने हमारी जो एक चेतना थी या हमारी जो हमारा जो ज्ञान था, उस ज्ञान ने हमें बचाया कि हम लोग उसमें बहुत पीछे रह गए. हम सिर्फ अपने एक विशाल भारतवर्ष से सिर्फ एक छोटे से एक कह लें कि अब एक जो ज्योग्राफिकल लोकेशन थी हमारी, वो बहुत सिमट के रह गई, जबकि और लोगों ने अपने शस्त्र के दम पे कहाँ से कहाँ तक पहुँचे. तो मेरा एक लॉजिकल क्वेश्चन है आपके लिए, ये शस्त्र और शास्त्र की जो लड़ाई है और इन दोनों में जो सुविधा है, उसको आप थोड़ा जरा सामान्य भाषा में बताएं तो अच्छा रहेगा. धन्यवाद.
आपका शुभ नाम?
ज्योत बेस्ट, उत्तराखंड से हूँ.
जी,
ज्योत सिंह बेस्ट, उत्तराखंड से हूँ मैं. तो आई मीन ऑकलैंड सेशन.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद ज्योत सिंह जी. आपके प्रश्न में था कि शस्त्र छूट गए, शास्त्र आ गए. मेरा मानना है कि शस्त्र और शास्त्र दोनों छूट गए. 1835-36 के करीब, यानी 19वीं शताब्दी के मध्य में मैकॉले द्वारा हमारे गुरुकुलों पर जो आघात हुआ, तो हमारी शास्त्र परंपरा का ह्रास शुरू हुआ। हमारे गुरुकुल एक एक करके बंद किए जाने लगे। हमारी शिक्षा व्यवस्था पर पूरा भारत साक्षर था। समाज का हर वर्ग शिक्षित था। गांव-गांव में गुरुकुल थे जहां पढ़ने पढ़ाने के लिए कोई शुल्क नहीं लगता था, समाज वहन करता था। उस परंपरा में हमने अपने शास्त्र, अपनी भाषा, अपना इतिहास, अपना साहित्य, अपनी ज्ञान परंपरा को खोया। और 1857 की संघर्ष के बाद 1862 में अंग्रेज एक कानून लेकर आया जिसको आर्म्स एक्ट कहते हैं। वो आज भी लगा हुआ है। उस आर्म्स एक्ट के चलते हमसे हमारे शस्त्र भी छीन लिए गए। तो हम शास्त्र विहीन कर दिए गए, हम शस्त्र विहीन कर दिए। और जब आपके पास ज्ञान न हो, अपना आत्मबोध न हो, अपनी परंपरा, अपनी संस्कृति से सीधा संपर्क न रहे, और फिर वो तो ज्ञान और मर्म की बात है, आपके वृहद शरीर, आपकी भौतिक जो एग्जिस्टेंस है, उसको उस पर आघात हो और आप उसकी भी आत्मरक्षा के लिए भी आपकी तैयारी ना हो, तो जो स्थिति होती है वो हमारी हुई है। इस बात का भी बोध आवश्यक है। और इस कारण निर्भरता बढ़ गई है, राज्य व्यवस्था पर निर्भरता हो गई है, समूहों पर निर्भरता हो गई है, संगठन करने की अनिवार्यता हो गई है। कुछ देशों में, अब जैसे अमेरिका में सेकेंड अमेंडमेंट है, तो आपको शस्त्र धारण करने का अधिकार है, मूलभूत अधिकार है। उसकी अपनी चुनौतियां हैं, उसकी अपनी दिक्कतें भी हैं, क्योंकि शस्त्र धारण कर लेना और उसके लिए आपके पास जो यथोचित मानस चाहिए, जो संयम चाहिए, जो बोध चाहिए, उसका अभाव होना भी शस्त्र को न केवल अन्य लोगों के लिए बल्कि स्वयं के लिए घातक बना देता है। बंदर के हाथ में उस तरह दे देता है। तो शस्त्र और शास्त्र का सामंजस्य, उसके अभाव की पूर्ति, ये आवश्यक है, यह अनिवार्य है। हमारे देवी देवताओं के हाथ में शस्त्र है, शास्त्र है, हम पुनः उन्हें प्राप्त करें, यह आवश्यक है। और इनके प्रतीक अर्थ भी हैं। शस्त्र एक शस्त्र के रूप में तो ठीक है, वो कोई भी शस्त्र हो, खड्ग हो, वो बंदूक हो, वो लाठी हो, लेकिन कई बार ज्ञान भी, बोध भी एक बहुत अच्छा शस्त्र हो जाता है। आपके हाथ में एक हैंडहेल्ड डिवाइस है और उसके अंदर एक सॉफ्टवेयर है और उसके माध्यम से आप क्या क्या कर सकते हैं, यह अद्भुत है। तो उन सब साधनों की उपलब्धता आप निश्चित करें जिनके माध्यम से आप आत्मरक्षा कर सकें, जिनका उपयोग एक शस्त्र के रूप में कर सकें। और शास्त्र यानी बोध, यानी आप कौन हैं, कहां से आए हैं, यहां आने का औचित्य क्या है, यहां से कहां जाएंगे, और जब तक यहां रहेंगे क्या करेंगे? ये जो मूलभूत प्रश्न हैं हमारे अस्तित्व से जुड़े हुए, इनका बोध लगातार बना रहे और वो बोध हर अन्य क्रियाकलाप पर एक आवरण की तरह रहे, एक कवच की तरह रहे, एक मार्गदर्शक की तरह रहे, एक पथ प्रदर्शक की तरह रहे। वो हमें रास्ता, हमारा मॉरल कंपस बने, वो हमारे इंपल्सेस को, हमारे इंस्टिंक्ट्स को, हमारी स्वतः स्फूर्त जो प्रतिक्रिया है उसको नियंत्रित करे। ये आवश्यक है। और इसके लिए हम जाने कि हम कौन हैं। हमारे पास एक बृहद शास्त्र परंपरा है, ज्ञान परंपरा है। हमारे यहाँ 6 मत हुए हैं। देखिए, हमारा विस्तार बहुत बहुत अद्भुत था। हम योग परंपरा से भी आए, हम वैदिक परंपरा से भी आए, हम सांख्य परंपरा से आए, हम वैशेषिक परंपरा से आए, हम मीमांसा परंपरा से आए। इन सब 6 मतों में हम रमे हुए थे, जिसको जो भला लगता था। आज इन परंपराओं का कितना ज्ञान है हमें, पतंजलि के अष्टांग योग का कितना ज्ञान है, जैमिनी के मीमांसा का कितना ज्ञान है, कपिल मुनि के सांख्य का कितना ज्ञान है। हम अद्वैत को उस वेदांत में रचे बसे आदिशंकर के अद्वैत को कितना जानते हैं, उसके मर्म से कितना परिचित है। हमने अपने पूर्वजों द्वारा चिंतन मनन से अर्जित की हुई परंपरा जो थाली में रखकर हमें परोसी गई है, उसको कितना जानते हैं और उसको आगे कितना बढ़ाते हैं अपने बच्चों में, अपने परिवार में। इस पाप से बचें, इस अबोध अवस्था से, इस अज्ञानता से बचें और अपने उत्तरदायित्व का वहन करते हुए आने वाली पीढ़ी को उसका परिचय दें। ये पूर्वजों की थाती है। हमारी सभ्यता, संस्कृति हजारों वर्षों की, उसका सत्य है। उसे बचाएं भी और उसे आगे भी बढ़ाएं, उसका संवर्धन करें। ये अत्यंत आवश्यक है। आपने प्रश्न पूछा, इसके लिए आपको बहुत बहुत आभार।
मेरा प्रश्न है, मैं पहले इंग्लिश में इसको पूछता हूँ, मैं हिंदी में भी अनुवाद करूँ। What does Hindutva mean for Hindus outside Bharat? How can our Hindu Foundation of New Zealand help in reflecting positive image of Hindutva? जो हमारी जो ये संस्था है हिंदू फाउंडेशन ऑफ न्यूजीलैंड, जिसने ये आयोजित किया है ये कार्यक्रम, वो हिंदुत्व की जो पॉजिटिव इमेज है उसको कैसे रिफ्लेक्ट करे न्यूजीलैंड में, और हिंदुत्व का हमारे लिए क्या मतलब है आउटसाइड भारत। धन्यवाद।
देखिए, हिंदू और हिंदुत्व का वही संबंध है जो सूर्य का प्रकाश से है। आप समझ रहे हैं? सूर्य हिंदू है और प्रकाश हिंदुत्व है। दोनों एक दूसरे से अलग नहीं हो सकते। इसके विषय में बहुत सी भ्रांतियां और भ्रम फैलाए गए। हिंदू एक विचार है, हिंदुत्व उसकी पालना है, उसका क्रियान्वयन है, उसका जीवन में उसको होते देखना, उसको करना मात्र हिंदुत्व है। और ये इट परमिएट्स आवर एंटायर लाइफ। ये हमारे योगक्षेम के, हमारे जीवन के, हमारे हर पुरुषार्थ के बिल्कुल केंद्र में है, कोर में है। इसको किसी राजनीतिक प्रपंच तक सीमित कर देना, इसके साथ अन्याय है ही, हमारे अपने साथ अन्याय है। तो जैसे अष्टांग योग में हम केवल उसके एक अंग योगाभ्यास को, आसनों को योग मान बैठे, यम नियम प्राणायाम इत्यादि को भूल गए। तो हिंदुत्व अपने आप में एक पॉलिटिकल प्रोजेक्ट की तरह ही हम देखते हैं और उसके इतर और कुछ नहीं जानते समझते। ये हम अपने साथ अन्याय करते हैं। हिंदू जीना, हिंदू होना और उसकी मैनिफेस्टेशन, उसका प्रत्यक्ष दर्शन, उसका साक्षात्कार हिंदुत्व है। और वो झलके, वो दिखे, वो जब वो दिखेगा तो उसको समझाना नहीं पड़ेगा, उसको परिभाषित नहीं करना पड़ेगा, उसके लिए शब्द नहीं ढूंढने पड़ेंगे, उसको प्रचारित नहीं करना पड़ेगा, वो नजर आएगा, वो अनुभव होगा। तो अपनी प्रखरता में, अपने समर्पण में, अपनी निष्ठा में, अपने विचारों में वो दिखे, उसका वैशिष्ट दिखे, ये प्रयास करें। और जहां कहीं इसके विषय में भ्रम फैलाया जाए, भ्रांति फैलाई जाए, तो सत्य सामने रखें, पूरे आग्रह के साथ रखें, पूरी प्रखरता के साथ रखें। मुझे तो लगता है कि यही करना होगा। हम जहां कहीं भी हों, हमारे होने में वो दिखे, हमारी वाणी में, हमारे काम में, हमारी आस्था में वो दिखे। ये प्रयास हम सब मिलकर करें तो क्यों नहीं होगा। संगठित हो, समन्वय के साथ। अब जैसे मैंने आपको ऋग्वेद का एक श्लोक शुरू में आपसे साझा किया था, संगच्छध्वम संवदध्वम संवो मनांसि जानताम। संगच्छध्वम, हम साथ चलें, संवदध्वम, हम एक स्वर में समन्वय के साथ बोलें, संवो मनांसि जानताम, हम एक साथ सोचें, हार्मनी में एक दूसरे के साथ मिल करके, पूरक बन के सोचे। कलयुग है, संघे शक्ति कलयुगे। इस युग में इसका प्रभाव तो रहेगा, तो इसलिए हमारी जो क्षमताओं में ह्रास हुआ है, उसकी पूर्ति मिल करके काम करने में है। तो संगठित होकर करें, मिल करके करें, साथ चल के करें, एक दूसरे का सहयोग करके करें, तो और अच्छे फल आएंगे।
पूछना चाहेगा या or you have a question? Okay, you can move. Yeah, this is the last question for you, sir. You have to come forward.
I'm not able to see anyone who's asking the questions. This is unfair. All of you probably can see me. I can't see you.
Can you see now? The lady in pink?
No, I don't.
Now can you see?
Yes, now I can see all of you. Yes, thank you. Yes, namaskar to all of you.
Namaste, Sushil Pandit.
Namaste.
Big fan of all your lectures, YouTube talks, and Republic TV. We watch you
Grateful.
every day on Republic TV. Our day is incomplete without listening to you on Republic TV. And my question is, like, we were talking about challenges from all over the world, but my problem is challenges within our own group, Hinduism, we have enemies within ourselves. So how do we really? We have challenges from within our own Hinduism.
Yes, that's true.
We have enemies within Hinduism. How to convince them, or how to face them, how to overcome this? I don't understand. Every day I face this with a lot of people.
Yes, yes, I get what you're saying. We've always had challenges within. In Dwapar, Mahabharat happened because there were challenges within the family itself. And see what a massive effort it took to overcome adharma, and what a price needed to be paid. So, challenges is what makes the life worth living also. What is a life without challenges? It keeps us fit, it keeps us ready, it keeps us thinking, it keeps us alive and alert. We need to equip ourselves with, I would reiterate, the knowledge, the perception. We need to be very clear about who we are and what we uphold, and how it is preferable, distinctive, a lot more valuable than what challenges us, who we are in conflict with. India has huge challenges today. I'm sure you see the news channels, what has happened. We need to be very clear, often, and this is a big pain point I would like to share with you. We make compromises for short-term, ephemeral comfort and jeopardize the long-term in the process. We blink in the face of a challenge and give in for absolutely no gain at all, just for the comfort of avoiding conflict. We give in. We pay a huge ransom to buy a temporary peace, and we sink deeper into a crisis every time we do that. And very often, this is done by the very leaders who we elect. This is done by the very governments who we support. We need to create a pressure. We need to make them realize that those who support you, those who fight for you, those who stand up for you, will not take everything lying down and will ask questions, will seek accountability. And this needs to be done relentlessly and ruthlessly. If we don't do it to our own, it's like parents asking the children and supervising them and minding them. Precisely in the same fashion, we need to ask questions of our leaders, of our governments, of our system, as to why do they blink at the first available opportunity in a face-off with adversary, an adversary who's patently in the wrong, an adversary who wants to destroy us. Why do we seek approval from such adversaries? Why do we stoop in order to win some kind of temporary reprieve from that adversary? हम दिल जीतने में लग जाते हैं उन लोगों के जो हमारा सर्वनाश करने पर तुले हुए। ये हमारी एक बहुत बड़ी कमजोरी है, निर्बलता है, आपदा है, और इसके प्रति सचेत रहना पड़ेगा और सचेत करते रहना पड़ेगा, प्रश्न पूछते रहना पड़ेगा। हम लोग एक सरकार चुनने के बाद 5 साल सोने चले जाएं, ये अच्छा नहीं है। हमें लगातार प्रश्न पूछने पड़ेंगे, आलोचना करनी पड़ेगी, भर्त्सना करनी पड़ेगी। जैसे हम बच्चों को अपने डांटते हैं, उस डांट में हमारा उनके प्रति स्नेह कोई कम नहीं होता, हमारी उनके प्रति जिम्मेदारी, उत्तरदायित्व कोई घटता नहीं है। हम उनसे शत्रुता या बैर नहीं रखते, लेकिन फिर भी डांटते हैं, फिर भी सजा देते हैं। उस भाव से हमें अपने नेतृत्व को, अपनी व्यवस्था को हमेशा निगरानी में रखना पड़ेगा। We need to supervise, we need to always be alert to what they are doing and what they are shirking from. ये अपने भीतर एक कमजोरी है। बिल्कुल आपने ठीक कहा, हमारे बीच में ये शत्रु हैं और उसका बोध रहे। हमारी सबसे बड़ी दिक्कत है कि हमारा शत्रु बोध, हमारा संकट बोध बिल्कुल घट गया है, गायब हो गया है। हमको खतरा कहां से है, हमको चुनौती कहां से है, उसके विषय में हम सचेत नहीं हैं। वो चैतन्य जगाना पड़ेगा, बहुत जरूरी है। और वो आपसी विमर्श में एक दूसरे से बात कीजिए, एक दूसरे से चर्चा कीजिए, सवाल कीजिए। वादे वादे जायते तत्वबोधाः। हम एक दूसरे से जितना संवाद करेंगे, सत्य के उतना नजदीक पहुंचेंगे। और ईमानदारी से वो संवाद कीजिए, तथ्यों के साथ संवाद कीजिए, तर्कों के साथ संवाद कीजिए, तो तत्वबोध होगा और निष्कर्ष भी अच्छे निकलेंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
नमस्कार सुशील पंडित जी, मेरा नाम
जी
सुनील दास, प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ हिंदू फाउंडेशन न्यूजीलैंड। एंड
नमस्ते सुनील।
thank you very much for giving us your precious time, and we will look forward again sometime later for sure. And yeah, thank you very much.
I'm delighted to have this opportunity. I'm grateful for your time and attention. Thank you so much for having me amongst you.